And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Let's keep it moving with more of these top headlines here. Take a look at this tweet by the Associated Press. An Illinois court has overturned the actor Jussie Smollett's conviction on charges of staging a racist and homophobic attack on himself. Well, our friend Fox's Connor Hansen has more from New York. Let's watch.
It's been more than 5 years since actor Jussie Smollett claimed he was the victim of a homophobic and racist attack in his Chicago neighborhood. Then came the shocking revelation the event was allegedly staged. In Smollett's trial, prosecutors say he paid two men to attack him, told them which slurs to use, and yell that he was in, quote, MAGA country. But now the Illinois Supreme Court has overturned Smollett's conviction and sentence of 150 days in jail and a $130,000 fine.
We're very happy with the decision today. We're very pleased, but it was expected. We shouldn't be surprised.
In its ruling, the state Supreme Court found the charges violated the actor's rights since he had already reached a deal with the state's attorney to pay a $10,000 bond and do community service.
The conviction was dismissed on procedural grounds, and it's a pretty significant decision by the Illinois Supreme Court.
One justice acknowledged that many were unsatisfied with the original deal. The special prosecutor behind the stronger charges pointed out the Supreme Court did not find any issues with the evidence or the verdict in the case. State Attorney Kim Foxx, who oversaw the original deal with Smollett, did not seek re-election. The incoming replacement criticized Foxx for being soft on crime. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
Connor, thanks so much. Let's bring into the conversation our longtime friend, legal analyst Neama Rahmani, to help us make sense of this. He joins me. Neama, good to see you here. I think it's safe to say that this struck many people by surprise here. It seems that the crux of the conviction being overturned and vacated is the appointment of a special prosecutor well after the charges were dropped. That special prosecutor convened a grand jury, and they were back to square one here. Neama, what's going on?
What happened here, Andrew, is the Illinois Supreme Court said that Kim Foxx, the former prosecutor, and Jussie Smollett had a deal, and that deal was to drop the charges. Now, normally when you're a prosecutor and you have a deal, there is a plea bargain. Someone will plead guilty, and in exchange, the state will offer a lesser charge or a reduced sentence. That's how it works. But in this particular case, the charges were dropped entirely, which was shockingly I won't even say slap on the wrist, because it was something less than that when he could have been charged with a serious misdemeanor or even more. So in this particular case, because Smollett forfeited his bail and did a paltry 15, 16 hours of community service, when the new prosecutor, Dan Webb, picked up the case, the Supreme Court of Illinois found that that breached the original agreement. It's eerily similar to what happened with Bill Cosby. Again, none of this means that Jussie Smollett is innocent or Bill Cosby is innocent. In Cosby's case, the former district attorney told Cosby he wasn't going to charge him. Again, no plea bargain, no written agreement. Of course, Cosby then made some incriminating statements during a deposition. He admitted to drugging women, and a new DA came and prosecuted him. So really, this is a dismissal on procedural grounds. I'm very disappointed that Kim Foxx offered this deal and that the Supreme Court of Illinois interpreted it as an ironclad deal that really prevented him from being prosecuted again.
Yeah, and to your point about his alleged guilt or innocence here, Mike Tobin has a statement in from that special prosecutor, Dan Webb. Quote, "Make no mistake," he says, "today's ruling has nothing to do with Mr. Smollett's innocence." So this doesn't exonerate him or bear on his guilt, correct?
Not at all. And let's not forget, Smollett pushed this case to trial, was convicted, and even after the trial, really engaged in an embarrassing manner at sentencing. After the sentencing, maintained his innocence, even though there was an avalanche of avalanche of evidence that he was not innocent and was in fact guilty, including the testimony of the co-conspirators, text messages, plenty of digital evidence showing that this was all a hoax.
So, Neama, if you could lay the blame at someone here, is it at Dan Webb? Is it at Kim Foxx, the Cook County State's attorney. Who would you lay the blame on?
Well, primarily Jussie Smollett, but
Sure.
can't really blame the criminals, right? It has to be Kim Foxx here, who took someone who really staged this elaborate crime. It cost Chicago PD countless man hours and law enforcement hours and hundreds of thousands of dollars. This was no laughing matter. They took this seriously. And for what reason, Andrew? This was someone who wanted attention, wanted more money and sympathy from his show Smollett. So that is not a reason to report a fake crime under any circumstances.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but Kim Foxx dropped the initial 16 counts of disorderly conduct. Now, was it her decision after there was a lot of backlash to that decision to appoint a special prosecutor, or was it someone else entirely? That's what I'm not connecting here.
Well, it was her decision. And, Dan Webb, very well respected former federal prosecutor there in Illinois. I mean, he's handled lots of cases, lots of experience. So she stepped aside, and rightfully so. And I'm glad she's no longer going to be the prosecutor in Cook County, because it was a terrible decision at the time. And unfortunately, it was too late to unwind it.
Neama, I also wanted to ask, too, about the history of this. You and I have talked so much about some of these instances and some of these cases where either the prosecutors or the judge makes a fatal error and it really renders the original conviction or penalty moot here. If you were trying this case, what errors could you have foreseen to avoid something like this?
Hard, because we're really in sort of uncharted waters, and Cosby is a recent example. But again, you don't typically see cases like this where there's not a prosecution without some sort of written agreement. There are handshake deals that happen in types of cases. Everything's spelled out. We're going to dismiss the charges, and in return, the defendant is going to do X, Y, and Z. Again, not what happened here, which was part of a big problem.
All right, Neama Rahmani, as always, can't thank you enough, Neama, and we'll definitely chat soon.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Andrew.
All right, in the meantime here, we do want to stay with this story. We do have a press conference from Jussie Smollett's legal team here, but let's set the stage. Neama always does such a great job explaining the legal P's and Q's of it, but Smollett's conviction today on the charges that he staged that racist and homophobic attack against himself in downtown Chicago. This was, remember, back in early 2019, and lied to police. Well, that conviction was overturned today over these prosecutorial issues Neama Rahmani and I were just discussing. So it's the state's highest court finding that a special prosecutor should not have been allowed to intervene after the Cook County's state attorney initially dropped charges against Smollett in exchange for him forfeiting his $10,000 bond and conducting community service here. Neema's point, I want to put up his tweet, was this, that the Illinois Supreme Court held there was an agreement and Smollett lived up to his end. He says this is similar to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling a previous DA agreed not to prosecute Bill Cosby. We know how that turned out. Neama says Jussie Smollett is Bill Cosby 2.0, not because of what he did, but because of what the prosecutor did here.